What's going on, guys? It's Cimo. Now, if you want to play a crazy combo deck that also embodies some elements of control, a deck that abuses soft once per turn effects, and a deck that can just completely blow your opponent out of nowhere, well, let me introduce you to Lunalight Orcust. Lunalight Orcust is a hybrid of both the Lunalight and Orcust archetypes. The Lunalight cards are a group of dark beast warrior type monsters that have amazing recursion and a severe lack of hard once per turn effects, while the Orcust cards are a group of dark machine type monsters that give the deck a win condition and the ability to create incredible turn 1 boards. Before we go over the cards, I want to start by differentiating between a hard once per turn and a soft once per turn effect, as this is one of the major strengths of the Lunalight archetype from a competitive perspective. Let's start by taking a look at one of the archetype's key play starters, Lunalight Kaleidochick. Kaleidochick reads, once per turn you can send one Lunalight monster from your deck or extra deck to the graveyard. The words once per turn in this instance mean that these types of effects can only be used once per turn per copy while that card is face up in its current location. This means that if Kaleidochick were sent to the graveyard then special summoned back to the field during the same turn, this effect of Kaleidochick can be activated once again. This is what's known as a soft once per turn. Comparatively, Lunalight Yellow Marten would be a good example of a hard once per turn. Since the card text reads, you can only use each effect of Lunalight Yellow Marten once per turn, meaning that the effects can only be used once each, period, even if you have the resources to access multiple copies of Yellow Marten. Now let's begin with the main monster lineup, starting with Lunalight Kaleidochick. We've already touched on her effect to send a Lunalight monster from deck or extra deck to the graveyard, and this is usually what begins a majority of our combos. One thing to note with Kaleidochick is that sending the monster to the graveyard is a cost, meaning that it happens before our opponent has the ability to respond with any card effects. This means that this dodges cards like Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, since sending a monster from the deck to the graveyard isn't an effect that can be negated. Since sending the monster to the graveyard is the cost, the effect is that Kaleidochick can be treated as the sent monster's name if used as fusion material this turn. If Kaleidochick is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, we can add one polymerization from our graveyard to our hand. Nice, but mostly irrelevant for this deck's purposes. And lastly, if Kaleidochick is banished, we can activate Kaleidochick's third ability, which denies our opponent from activating cards or effects during the battle phase. While not commonly activated in Lunalight Orcust, if you have a way to enable it, it helps ensures that any OTK will go through, guaranteed. With Lunalight Kaleidochick's Foolish Burial effect, we're typically going to be sending Lunalight Yellow Marten to the graveyard. If Yellow Marten is in our hand or graveyard, we can target a Lunalight card we control except another copy of Yellow Marten, return it to the hand, and if we do, special summon Yellow Marten in defense position, but it's banished if it leaves the field. Keep in mind that if Yellow Marten is used as Xyz material, it won't be banished if summoned by this effect, and will instead return to the graveyard. Even though this effect is a hard once per turn, it will be very useful for abusing another Lunalight card we'll cover a little bit later on. Also, if Yellow Marten is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, we can add one Lunalight spell or trap from our deck to our hand. Important for bridging certain combos, Yellow Marten is a crucial combo piece that supports our Lunalight engine. The other key Lunalight combo piece is Lunalight Tiger, a pendulum monster. While scaled in the pendulum zone, as a soft once per turn, we can target a Lunalight monster in our graveyard, special summon it, but it can't attack, its effects are negated, and it's also destroyed during the end phase. Now, none of these things matter if we plan on using whatever we recur as material to summon monsters from our extra deck, and since Lunalight Tiger is a soft once per turn, we can continuously bounce Tiger back to our hand with cards like Yellow Marten and even Blackwing Zephyros the Elite to abuse Tiger to the best of our ability and generate multiple summons with a single card. Tiger's monster effect allows us to special summon a Lunalight monster from the graveyard if Tiger is destroyed by battle or card effect. While not nearly as abusable as the pendulum effect since it's a hard once per turn, you can never really go wrong with more recursion. Next up are a couple of one-ofs that you might want to include depending on your build. Lunalight Emerald Bird can cycle a Lunalight card from our hand for a fresh draw whenever she's normal or special summon, and if she's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, we can target one level 4 or lower Lunalight monster that's banished or in our graveyard and special summon it in defense position. Both of these effects are hard once per turns, but the ability to recur from the banished zone as well as the graveyard gives Emerald Bird a somewhat useful niche as an extender. Then we have Lunalight Wolf, another Another Pendulum monster, while in the Pendulum zone, once per turn we can fusion summon one Lunalight fusion monster from our extra deck by banishing the materials listed from the field or graveyard. This is where Kaleidochick's first effect can prove useful, as some people like to tech one copy of Wolf for that higher OTK potential utilizing the fusion monsters. Although not commonly played, Wolf is a card you might want to consider. Now let's move on to the Orcus monsters. The three main Orcus monsters we need are Orcus Nightmare, Orcus Harp Horror, and Orcus Symbol Skeleton. Starting with Orcus Nightmare, once per turn we can banish it from the graveyard and target one monster we control, then send a dark machine type monster from our deck to the graveyard, and the targeted monster gains attack equal to the level of that sent monster until the end of the turn. The attack gain aspect seldom comes up, but the primary objective here is to dump any of our other Orcus monsters into the graveyard and start our engine. Keep in mind that when you use Orcus Nightmare's effect, however, you're locked into only special summoning dark monsters for the duration of the turn. So what are we sending off Orcus Nightmare? Well, that's where Orcus Harp Horror and Orcus Symbol Skeleton come into play. Both Harp Horror and Symbol Skeleton have similar effects where they banish themselves from the graveyard to special summon an Orcus monster. Harp Horror special summons from the deck, while Symbol Skeleton special summons from the graveyard. Both Harp Horror and Symbol Skeleton are hard once per turns, and similar to Orcus Nightmare, when we use their effects, we become locked into only special summoning dark monsters for the rest of the turn. A standard Orcus combo involves linking off any two monsters into a Nightmare monster, such as Nightmare Phoenix or Nightmare Cerberus, linking that off into a Nightmare Mermaid, special summoning Orcus Nightmare directly from the deck with Mermaid's effect, linking those off to get Orcus Nightmare into the graveyard, banishing Nightmare to send Harp Horror from deck to grave, then banishing the Harp Horror to summon Symbol Skeleton to our field, so that way we can continue on with the myriad of different combos. While it isn't an Orcus monster, another key card to the Orcus strategy is World Legacy World Wand. Being a Dark Machine monster, it fits perfectly within the deck's restrictions, and when it's in the graveyard once per turn, we can banish it to special summon one of our banished Orcus monsters. Keep in mind though that if you decide to use this effect, it has the same dark only special summoning restriction as the previous Orcus monsters. Some other cards we'll want to include are the Dangers, specifically Danger Nessie, Jackalope, Tsuchinoko, and even Danger Mothman. All the Danger monsters give us more bodies on the board to continue our combos, especially to play through our opponent's disruptions, and we don't mind having a majority of our cards in the graveyard since we have lots of tools to recur them. Armageddon Knight functions identically to Kaleidochick since it can also send any dark monster to the graveyard as well, Blackwing Zephyros the Elite to help abuse Lunalight Tiger, and Gizmek Orochi the Serpentron Sky Slasher is an interesting tech choice that is a dark machine, so it synergizes with the Orcus half of our deck and gives the deck some extra options, especially at the end of our combos. Moving on to the spell cards, Lunalight Perfume is a non-once per turn normal spell card that allows us to target and special summon a Lunalight monster from our graveyard. And if that weren't enough, we can banish Lunalight Perfume from our graveyard as well as discard a card to add one Lunalight monster from our deck to our hand. Because of Perfume's second effect, we want to run maximum copies of Foolish Burial Goods as well, because while Goods is a hard once per turn, being able to effectively act as 3 extra copies of Perfume for consistency is incredible. On that same note, Fire Formation Tenki is also a staple 3 of, since all of our Lunalights are Beast Warriors, just further bolstering the deck's consistency and giving us all of the combo pieces we need. 1 lone copy of Foolish Burial, since it can toolbox for whatever monster we may need, and 1 Orchestrated Babble, the Orcus field spell, that turns all of our Orcus effects into quick effects and allowing us to interact with our opponent during their turn where we normally can't. Since we're playing a combo deck, we want to keep the number of trap cards to a minimum because we want to see as many playable cards as possible in our opening hands. However, there are a few select trap cards that we will want to include. Orcus Crescendo is the Orcus counter trap and can negate any spell, trap, or monster effect as long as we control an Orcus link monster. Lunalight Serenade Dance is a continuous trap that we're usually looking to get into the graveyard rather than actually play it, since its on-field effect only pertains to fusion monsters. But in the graveyard, we can banish Lunalight Serenade Dance and send a card from our hand to the graveyard to special summon 1 Lunalight monster from our deck. It doesn't trigger danger effects, but it's a nice way to get Zephyros the Elite into the graveyard to keep bouncing Tiger back to our hand. Finally, we can include 1 power trap of choice, since the deck has the ability to search any trap and set it directly to the field via Curious the Lightsworn Dominion and Nightmare Griffin. This can be something like Imperial Order, Eradicator Epidemic Virus, or even Summon Limit, just depending on what you anticipate the meta might be at any given tournament you plan on attending. Moving on to the extra deck, since the Lunalights provide us with a consistent engine of level 4 monsters, we can play a wide variety of different rank 4s depending on the meta. Raid Raptor Force Tricks is a key combo piece if we want to easily access Zephyros the Elite. Abyss Dweller is incredible incredible against any graveyard reliant matchup and a strong pick for the mirror match. Tornado Dragon can be an extender for the deck's combos, but is also strong against back row heavy decks as well. We can even play Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Tiger King, since the Lunalights are beast warriors, allowing us to access additional copies of Fire Formation Tenki and enabling a skill drain-esque effect, which can be strong against certain matchups. And lastly, the big payoff for the rank 4 access is Outer Entity Nyarla, which by extension gives us access to Outer Entity Azathoth, shutting down our opponent's ability to activate monster effects for the duration of the turn, giving us free reign to combo off without fear of our opponent's hand traps. The last Xyz monster is Dingirsu, the Orcust of the Evening Star. Although he's a rank 8, we'll Xyz summon Dingirsu by overlaying it on top of any Orcus Link monster. But keep in mind, Dingirsu can only be special summoned once per turn by any means. This is because Dingirsu is an extremely powerful card. It has a continuous ability that protects all cards on our field from being destroyed by battle or card effect, simply by detaching a material from Dingirsu instead. And in addition to that, if Dingirsu is special summoned, we can either send one card our opponent controls to the graveyard, another strong removal tool, or attach a banished machine monster to Dingirsu as material. Dingirsu paired specifically with Symbol Skeleton creates a deadly combination where Dingirsu can be resurrected as many times as you wish, as long as you continuously reattach Symbol Skeleton as material, making Dingirsu very problematic for our opponents to deal with. As for the Link monsters, Nightmare's Phoenix, Cerberus, and Mermaid are all necessary to facilitate the Orcus combo and are strong removal tools in their own right. Galatea, the Orcus Automaton, is a bridge that helps bring the Orcus combo together, not being able to be destroyed by battle if it's linked, and searches out Orchestrated Babel or Orcus Crescendo by shuffling back a banished machine monster into our deck. Longirsu, the Orcust Orchestrator, cannot be destroyed by card effects if it's linked, and has the ability to recycle our banished resources and act as a non-targeting, non-destructive form of removal. Curious, the Lightsworn Dominion paired with Nightmare Griffin allows us to send and set respectively any trap card from our deck to hinder our opponent's plays. And finally, Borrelsword Dragon is an absolute must in this deck, since the Orcus combo can pivot into it and leads to some incredibly easy OTKs. I really hope you enjoyed this introduction to Lunalight Orcust. If you did, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content, and if you found this video helpful, consider supporting me on Patreon or becoming a YouTube channel member. Because just by showing your support in any way that you can, you're investing in my ability to continue bringing you amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. So thanks so much again, and we'll see you next time.